We in this motherfucker.
I mean, I'm just mustache jealous at this point. That's all it is.
He's establishing dominance on us early in this podcast, Jackson. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
You got no chance at matching that energy.
I feel like I should go dip into the bathroom real quick and do something about that.
It was perfect size. It was just perfect. I was able to hold the ball and the shaft. If it's too big, you start gagging. You know?
Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with The Underground, the show that goes to the depths of the Dynasty landscape. The Dynasty Underground is back in your life, baby. I am Trav, hosting and West Coastin'. Please go subscribe to that YouTube channel. Find us on your favorite audio platforms and check us out on social media at The Undroppables. Of course, with me tonight, spreading the wise words of Dynasty game theory, one Jax Falcone. How are you, my brother?
I am pretty fired up. I snorted 2 Tylenol before the show, so I'm feeling pretty good. You know what I mean? I heard that stuff's bad for you, so I went for it. You know what I mean? I thought,
Hey, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. And I'll tell you, it's really exciting to see Wiz over there. You know, people are like, what the hell happened to Joe? Did Joe grow a fucking mustache in 1 week? This guy's unbelievable. You know, trading in the corner office for a luxury apartment. Nobody knows what's going on. Wiz in the house, bro. I am so happy to see him. Go ahead, Trav. Give him a proper introduction.
Absolutely. Yes. Our very special guest for the evening for Undroppables Truthers. He needs no introduction, but we have decided to trade Joe Quavius in for a new model, and the Eagle has landed, boys. It's the freak in the spreadsheets. Daniel J. Whisner. Wiz, it is so good to see you. Welcome back, man.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's been too long. I appreciate Joe kind of let me fill in for him here while he's gallivanting over in Greece. But it's great to see both of your faces, and I'm looking forward to talking some ball with you guys.
Yes, sir.
Oh, it's going to be such a good show. Going to take a little bit of a trip down nostalgia lane a little bit from our days on the Unraveled podcast, Wiz, and excited to do it. I think we had a couple episodes of the Undrafted where we were on as well, and so feels like a little bit of the band is back together here, and we got a good show on tap for the listeners, fellas. Going to follow the same format as we did last week. We really kind of liked how that show shook out. And so we're obviously going to finish off with some rookie heat checks as we do. Rookie analysis is kind of the backbone of what we do on the Dynasty Underground. Then we're going to do some trend spotting to let you know the edges that you can attack in fantasy football. But first, gentlemen, we're going to start with some problems. We got some problems. The first one, we're going to hit the injury streets, guys. And these aren't necessarily like problems. We're not necessarily going to talk about the problems for the injured players, but injuries, of course, are problems. We never like to see them, and they have big impacts in the Dynasty landscape for us. So Najee Harris and James Conner both suffered season-ending injuries. We're going to start with the Chargers, gentlemen. Najee looked nasty. He kind of stepped back to like take a carry or a play action or something, and the Achilles just snapped. Do not like to see that. I was a little bit excited for what Najee could do in that 1B role, but alas, we must move on and take account for what's there right now, guys. And so, Wiz, as our guest, I want you to maybe just talk a little bit about what your outlook is for Omari and Hampton, if that's changed with Najee, and kind of how you see that shaking out over the season, and of course, any impacts for Dynasty as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the things that I just want to talk about before we even get into that, did you see it, like how Herbert just had no regard for Najee's injury, just kept going on with the play, ran the play, and Najee's just like laying there dead. No, feel for him, but I think that was kind of Hampton's coming out party, right? Like you kind of saw what you saw, that athleticism on full display, just a big dude that, you know, with those extra carries now, because who's behind him there? You got Hassan Haskins, I think, is the guy that's going to be potentially behind him. Look, I think, you know, Greg Roman offense, Jim Harbaugh offense, he's got the size and speed that you kind of want to see. And we've seen him catch the ball in college too. So I think that skill set for him to be that fantasy producer that we're kind of all looking for, this is just probably going to accelerate his timeline, right? A lot of the times with the rookies, we see them kind of ramp up that first half and then really become, you know, big time contributors and sometimes league winners down the stretch. I think, Hampton's timeline just got really pushed up as far as that goes. And I think we really kind of started to see that on full display. It'll be really interesting to see if he gets, all those touches once they get in the red zone. I'd imagine he's going to get the bulk of them, especially, given his size and everything like that. But I don't know how you can't love this for Hampton going forward. I think one of the things that has been nice to see with the Chargers this year is this is, the nerds have been on Herbert for a while. But this does seem to be like the most well-balanced and well-rounded Chargers offense with like Quentin Johnston coming into form. You still have Lab McConkey there. Keenan Allen's come back. And, even though he's older, he's still producing at a pretty high level. And, then we saw the rookie last week, Oronde Gadsden, start to do some stuff, right? So like there's a lot of weapons there, and the more weapons that they have just is going to open things up for Hampton a little bit more to kind of thrive in there. What are you guys thinking as far as Hampton goes?
Yeah, I think when you talk about Omarion, I think he was probably going to be stuck with Najee Harris, not necessarily behind him, but stuck with him all season. And now with Najee gone, there's no love for anybody else. I think they'll spell him with whomever, whether it's Kamani Vidal or Hassan Haskins or someone else or Gus Edwards or something, the corpse of Gus Edwards, whatever they choose to do, none of those guys are commanding what Najee Harris was commanding. Lest we forget, Najee Harris had, 1,000 rushing yards in like 4 or 5 consecutive seasons. Like this guy was a real contributor in the NFL, a trusted player. He's gone. And now we see what that does for opportunity for Omarion Hampton. And even in the pass game now, too, it opens that up as well. It's not just the carries. It's on. If we were nervous about Omarion this year, which I was actually a little bit, I traded Omarion for, a big bag, before the season, player and multiple first-round picks type of trade. I'm okay with that in sort of a rebuild situation. But now, I mean, if you're a productive team, you can really go out and be happy that you have Omarion. I think we're seeing something similar with Travion and Ashton Genty. I see it on the timeline. A lot of people just sort of like, I know they're not our people, but they're people out there that are saying like Genty sucks and blah blah blah, and like Travion, what a bust. He's there's just so much negative commentary. It's like, I think I tweeted, I said, have you guys ever watched football? Like, is this your first time ever watching an NFL season ever? That's the only way you can have that take. Maybe they bust. I mean, that is possible, but it's not based off of what we've seen over the first 3 weeks. It wasn't for Omarion, and he's going to prove that right now. That opportunity opens up for him. I'm still dubious of Travion's opportunity because there's 2 great backs there, but, Genty, Travion, and Omarion are all great, as well as your boy Judkins is looking pretty good too, eh? So I think
brother.
there's so much to be excited for, but Omarion is the uptake from there. And we'd be remiss. I don't think we're going to get to it later in the show, so I'll mention Oronde Gadsden. I think, Gadsden was the same type of play as Harold Fannin. It was, if he's good, he's a pass game weapon. That's all you have to know about these players is like, yes, some players bust, some players hit. If some players hit, they don't ever become the pass game weapon that Oronde was in one game. They just never get 5 targets. They just don't ever do that. They never catch a ball going down a seam. They're never asked to do that. Gadsden is a legit pass game weapon. If they choose to deploy him as they did in this game going forward, he could be a tight end 1 this year. I mean, this is the type of player this guy is. I'm not projecting or predicting him to be that, but I think you can buy as high as you want on Oronde Gadsden and not be doing yourself a disservice because you're just taking a shot. You probably should have been doing that already. I know I've got a number of Gadsden bags. You probably could have been buying him for thirds already, potentially. Now it's going to be hard to get him for a third. Someone just saw the cat out of the bag. They're not going to want to do that. But I think, this is something where when you see it, it's not fake. I think that's the key to the listener. I think we sort of take this as we already know this to be true, but I think a lot of our listeners are looking for us to reinforce that with them that, hey, look, is this a bullshit type of thing? Like just happens to catch a couple passes? Maybe, but probably not A. And B, if it isn't, it's real in the fact that he has real legit upside as a tight end who's going to catch a lot of targets.
Yeah, you remember my hot take that I had on the show regarding Oronde Gadsden, Jax? My extra bold take. previous to the season was that Oronde Gadsden had a world where he could be the number one rookie tight end by season's end.
Mm,
Obviously, that's not necessarily coming true, like because of a couple games in and we don't know the role. But I'm loving that take right now because it's only aging well. And I
yeah,
think, and I think with Gadsden, to your point about that third round pick, he's a guy who we believe in and who we think is likely to get some of that work and hit if he gets that work. But I think he's a guy over the next like 4 to 6 weeks could potentially see pretty limited volume to where he could get that price dip back down to a third round pick. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So you don't necessarily have to pounce just yet if
true.
that price feels a little too much, because I think there could be a little
I
bit of
think
a mini dip
Disley was
before the
hurt too.
breakout. But yeah,
Yeah,
Disley was hurt too. So
so I mean, he could get put back in the genie could go back in the bottle. I had tweeted, and I'll speak to Wiz here. This is some Wiz stuff right here. I had tweeted the 2025 rookie tight ends best college season yards per route run. Harold Fannin
yeah.
3.76, Tyler Warren 2.77, Colston Loveland 2.67, fourth on that list, Oronde Gadsden 2.30. So if you had just drafted tight ends based on their best season yards per route run, which actually was kind of what we do basically. We kind of do look for signals like this. We kind of do that. It would have been Fannin, Warren, Loveland, Gadsden, and then all these other guys would have been behind him. And it's looking like that might have been the right order, like somewhere in there. So, these are the four pass catching tight ends. So, hallelujah.
I think one
Absolutely.
more
Yeah.
one more note on Hampton too, right? When
Yeah.
you look at just kind of expected fantasy points per game, even with kind of dealing with that Najee split those first couple games, obviously we saw it lean much towards Hampton in game 3. He's sitting at 15.4 right now, which would rank 14th, among running backs. And that's when you factor in there's going to be no Najee going forward. You're looking at probably like a top 12 back from an expected fantasy points per game. And if that offense continues to take steps, there's runway for him there to really capitalize on that.
Is
Yeah,
Omarion
totally.
is Omarion the running back 4 in Dynasty? In other words, is he ahead of Brees Hall, Devon Achane, Travion, Saquon, Bucky Irving, those types? JT?
I think he probably is. I think he probably is. I don't think it's reflected in my dynasty rankings right now, but I think with some of these new developments after week 3, the fact that Najee was only on a 1-year deal, and so that deal is kaput. I don't think they're going to want to pay him over 9 million again next season. I think, yeah,
Yep,
Omarion, like
I
you
think
want
so.
to try and put a feeler out there now if you can buy him, but it's going to be a tough one.
It's funny because I do, and you guys can speak to this. I do the dynasty ranks, and I always think like, off season they don't change too much, but in season they do. And someone hit me up about a trade, and it involved Puka and CD Lamb, and I said, well, obviously Puka, over CD Lamb in dynasty. And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, of course. They're like, well, I said, dude, 2025 matters, right? In other words, right now, we have to take this season and overvalue it. Unless you're a rebuilder, then okay, well, then you can look at the end of the season and try and extrapolate what's going to be the value then, and you can make moves based on that. Does that make sense? In other words, if you don't care about 2025 production, or maybe you actually want less because you're tanking or something, there are things like that. But if we're talking about Puka and CeeDee Lamb, you're talking about productive players. Which one would I rather have? It's Puka. It's not close. I want Puka over CeeDee Lamb. It doesn't mean that I think he's better. It's just maybe at the end of the season that levels back out and we change again. But 2025 matters. And I think that's where it comes to Omari and Hampton now, is his 2025 is a much better projection than it was a week ago. So now
Yeah.
2025, boom, is a much stronger. He's probably a running back 1 in 2025 now, where he was a running back 2, maybe, somewhere in the backside of the running back 2 equation in 2025. Not anymore. So I think he is the running back 4, and I don't think there's really too much of a question about it because he's got a wide open runway on a high powered offense, as Wiz pointed out.
I think you could maybe sneak Achan in there
I
because of
was
the
just about
passing
to say that.
Sure
Yeah.
the
could.
target volume he's going to get versus Omari and Hampton, because Omari
Yeah.
and Hampton's probably not getting like a ton of targets unless they change their offensive
True.
philosophy there. But
Yep.
I
Fair.
think it's the fact that it's close is saying something right now,
Yep.
right? Whereas if Najee was going to be playing for the rest of the season, we probably wouldn't be as concrete about that yet. So moving to another guy who is coming into crazy opportunity for the rest of 2025. And we didn't want him to get here this way, guys, necessarily. Like, I think we always knew that a James Conner injury was the avenue for Benson to get more work. We didn't want it to be this catastrophic, though, I guess. But it is that ankle injury for Conner looked absolutely nasty. So hopefully he recovers well. But when we start looking at Trey Benson, guys, we see even before that injury, his snap share was increasing from 34.4% in week 1 to 45.8% in week 2. He also was way more efficient than James Conner. He had almost 6 yards per carry to James Conner's 3. He had 0.29 missed tackles forced per attempt to Conner's 0.19. And then even yards after contact per attempt, 3.57 to Conner's 1.81. So I think Benson was kind of showing to be the more productive guy and was going to be working into that workload. Don't think he was ever getting over 60% with a healthy James Conner in there probably, though. And so I think this changes things for Benson. We've talked a little bit in the group chat, I think, Jax, about where he probably stands as far as Dynasty rankings. Wiz, what do you think about Trey Benson and kind of how it looks and where you might slot him, or what kind of jump he might take for you in the Dynasty streets?
So just a couple of things I was looking at when doing some prep for this. I think one of the things is that James Conner, while he's been in that Arizona offense that, you know, really kind of leans on that man gap run scheme, right? He's been all reliable for them. The production that he's been able to have into his later 20s and, you know, even early 30s has been pretty remarkable. But I think, to your point, Trav, with some of those efficiency stats, maybe we were starting to see some of that stuff dip. So I do think one of the things that Benson gives them is like an explosive element to their rush game that maybe Conner doesn't bring them. When you look at, you know, Benson, for example, 9.5 explosive run percentage, which would rank fifth among running backs with at least 15 attempts. There's 48 running backs in that sample. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy with like bigger playability. And the other thing is, you know, I kind of spoke to the man gap concept, right? Which is something that the Arizona Cardinals, you know, they have the most rushing attempts out of the man gap concept in the league. And when you look at what Benson's done in that so far, he's averaging 7.7 yards a carry on 27 attempts out of that kind of scheme. So I just think he's set up for, he's in a situation where the offensive coordinator, you know, Drew Petzing there is really going to be able to maximize his ability. Cause you know, if he's best out of that scheme and they run that scheme the most, it just feels like a great fit. And the other thing is when you think about, you know, not just the explosive nature that he brings in the run game, how much they do target the running back as well, right? You know, Conner was looking at, you know, a 0.27 targets per route run, which was 8th among running backs. So, you know, having Benson come in and be able to run some of those routes, you know, he was at 0.16 before this Conner injury. Seeing that uptick would just give him that higher floor. So if we can see him kind of, you know, expand on that, you know, that rushing volume, keep some of that efficiency, obviously we'll probably see some of it dip, but supplement it with some of that, you know, receiving volume as well. I think that's probably where I'm looking at. Like he does feel like one of those backs that has enough size to stay on the field and handle both those duties at times. I can't imagine DeMarcado is going to be like a huge piece for them. Maybe like spelling kind of what we talked about earlier with Haskins and Hampton. From a dynasty perspective, I mean, when I, you know, looking at it here, I probably had him somewhere as like a low end RB2 before this. But the reality is, you know, I think this was the last year of James Conner's deal. He's going to
They
be on the
can
Bronx.
they can
Sorry,
cut
go
him
ahead.
and save 8 million after the
Okay.
season. So it's not the last year, but it makes so much sense for them to cut him and
It's
save that 8
basically his
million.
last year.
Yeah, it's
Last
pretty
year
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
guaranteed. Right. Yeah.
And again, which is unfortunate for him, but you know, if
Mhm.
I think this really could be a scenario where if he starts to take off with this opportunity here, he's going to get a lot harder to buy from a dynasty perspective, you know, 3, 4, 5 weeks from now. So if you're a Benson guy, I would say take the chance and getting in on the ground floor now, because again, I kind of had him, you know, maybe around that low end RB2. I would not be surprised to see him be like, you know, maybe closer to like that 12 to 15 range come the end of the year, depending on, you know, how he gels with this bigger opportunity. What are you guys thinking on
Yeah.
him?
I think he's in the top 20 dynasty running backs right now. So the this is the age-old question: is that worth a first or is that worth a second? It's how these things always go. Because I'm trying to buy him in a league that someone's trying to sell him, and I'm a contender. They're not. I certainly could use the production. I don't want to sell off my 26 first. They want my 26 first. Like, what's new? Anybody ever hear this story before? And it's like, so I'm trying to make a deal where I'm not giving up my first. I'm giving up my second plus some other things, some other stuff. Here's some free gifts that go along
It's
with
not
my
going to do
second.
it.
And it's not going to do it. It's hard to get that done. It's not an easy deal to get done. Now, I don't know that I want to pay a first. It's kind of like the Chase Brown from last year. We sold him for the 202 and a 2-3 swap, which ended up being only 5-6 spots up in the second round. Whatever. Point was, that was about it. And then we got Luther Burden with that pick. Luther Burden or Chase Brown. I know it seems like Chase Brown for so long, but now all of a sudden maybe it's Luther Burden again. And those picks tend to be pretty valuable. Those early second round picks. I don't know. I think there's something to be said about a second for these types of running backs. I mean, a first. I mean, look, if you end up not making the playoffs, you're talking about the 106 or something, dude. I want to give up Rome Odunze for Trey Benson. You know what I mean? So I think you're smart to sell for a first. I'm not so sure I want to pay firsts for players like Trey Benson. I'm not saying he couldn't return value on that first. Like, and win you. He could be a league winner type player. I get that. I see that upside. But in Dynasty, it can fade quickly, just like we're seeing with Chase Brown as an example. I don't know. You just, you know what I'm saying, guys?
That's right.
What do you think?
That's right, Jax, because it's not like he's attached to an elite offense, right? And yeah, the volume is workhorse volume. And this team has shown that they are willing to use a workhorse running back, but they've also shown damn near ineptitude from a play calling lens. And we're seeing Kyler Murray be a subpar quarterback so far this year, and the offense is just stagnant once again. And so they're not taking that step forward. And so I think Benson can be the diamond in that rough, but I see why you wouldn't want to be paying that first. And I also see why you wouldn't want to sell without getting a first, right? Like,
Yeah,
you could be you're sitting on what you think is a premium asset or about to ascend into being a premium asset. You need to get some form of what could be a premium asset back, right? And it's interesting though, because if I recall, Jax, you're better at recalling this, but was Benson not like an early second round pick in drafts when we were drafting him too? So that's kind of a little bit full circle when you're coming to the trade negotiations for him as well, trying to get that profit.
I do think the prognostication here for Trey Benson is through the roof. Like, he was really good. We were talking about it. We had mentioned Trey Benson a few times on this program in the offseason where, Trav, I agreed with you. Me and you teamed up on Joe. He was the anti.
That's right.
But nonetheless, we have these conversations. We remember we sort of were buying into Trey Benson. We had him, ahead of a lot of other handcuff running backs. And if you remember, I mean, it's not like I'm predicting injuries, but I said, look, James Conner is injury prone. He had been injury prone for most of his career. Luckily stayed healthy last year. Nobody predicted this injury coming, but we did say, look, if he does get injured, Trey Benson has legit workhorse upside in his profile. And this is all coming to fruition. So I'm sure a lot of our listeners have already found a way to get Trey Benson on their roster. And if you're a contender, fucking ride that thing. If you're a rebuilder, you might even wait a week or two, let him sort of show himself. But yeah, I'd be asking a first, even just a lone first, single first, any first, 28, 27, 26. I don't really care. If you're selling and you can get a first round pick straight up for Benson, just do it.
Yep. And if you recall, Jax, part of that conversation was one of my favorite trades that I made last season was I traded my Joe Mixon for Trey Benson in a second, and that second turned into Bashal Tootin. So I parlayed that Mixon into Benson and Tootin. So I'm feeling good.
And while people are hearing, people are hearing that, they're like, obviously, then it wasn't obvious. Wasn't obvious when you did that. 100%. And that's right.
Benson was dirt napped on that depth chart, and a second was a second. But we're going to get into our next problem here, guys. And I'm talking about Benson being a W for me. We're taking a full 180 to a big L for the old T-Rab on this one, boys, because CJ Stroud is an absolute problem in Houston. And I think, boys, I don't know. I'm thinking the dream is dead. I did a little bit of a study and put some CJ Stroud stuff in a quarterbacks column I dropped on the True North Substack earlier this week. And It's not good, guys. It is not good at all. CJ Stroud in his last 14 games going past back to last season, he has only hit 15 fantasy points or 3 times. Only 3 times has he cleared 15 fantasy points in the last 14, and only twice has he cleared 250 passing yards. So there's just no ceiling with him. And my take on him coming into the season was that new weapons, Nick Caley coming from that Rams system, going to run a lot more 11 personnel, which they are doing, but it just hasn't had that increased efficiency. He came into this season with a career high of 23 passing touchdowns in that rookie season that we all thought was stellar and put him into our top 10 dynasty quarterbacks. I thought he could progress on some of that considering the ecosystem around him got better, but it just has not come to fruition. A lot of it is due to that offensive line. They absolutely tanked themselves when they traded away their offensive linemen. But Jax, why don't you kick this one off? Like, you and I have talked about a lot of CJ Stroud over the last probably year or so, and you were a big steamer of CJ Stroud, but you adjusted maybe a little bit earlier than I did. So what are you seeing here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the adjustment was, not to fall in love with the player so much and understand that even if he's as good as I thought he might have been, that he's still not an elite fantasy asset. And that's where I was okay shifting to players like Bo Nix, who isn't exactly lighting it up either. Look, Penix, could be another problem we could talk about. JJ McCarthy, all these guys that we thought we were maybe, hey, go from Stroud to these guys and get profit, and then you win twice. Boy, you're not even winning the first time. So we've got problems everywhere. But I do think when I talk about CJ Stroud specifically, I'm going to give you some alarming numbers. Okay. Look, last year he regressed a little bit, not entirely, but enough, especially with the turnovers. He went from a 1% interception rate in year one, which was so good. 500 attempts, 5 picks, 1%, just awesome. Last year goes to 2.3%. This year is at 3.4% already, which is an abominable number. But it's last year we talked about it. It's like, yeah, he regressed a little bit, but he also went 10-7. So it's like, hey, we can sort of see the forest through the trees, if you will. But this year they're 0-3. He's regressed in interceptions, but he's also regressed in touchdown percentage. Touchdown percentage 4.6, 3.8, 2.2 this year. The sack rate is actually not that much worse. So I'm wondering how much of it is the offensive line. I mean, I know that doesn't spell everything, but the QBR went from 57 to 46 to 34. The QB rate went to 187, 76. Like everything is just coming down. Obviously, the yards per game, he's not even prolific in any way. 273, 219 to now below 200 yards passing per game. Obviously, as a fantasy player, dude, we need him to be voluminous, right? We need volume from a guy who's not going to be rushing the football. In year one, almost 300 yards per game passing. That's what we wanted, right? That's what we needed. And almost 5% touchdown rate. Like, we're like, okay, if we build on this, we've got a guy. Well, we're not building, we're regressing, and it's really bad. So he's got to get this thing turned around pronto.
Yeah, and you know what's kind of funny, Wiz? I'm going to kick it to you in just one quick second. Funniest thing about CJ Stroud this year right now, boys, he is tied for the 4th most scrambles in the league, and he is 5th in scramble yards so far this year with 80. That's not how it's going to end up this season. That was actually super funny when I found that, because that's massive rushing upside for CJ Stroud, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's not like he's actually doing that, but it is not looking good at all. In my notes here, guys, I just finished it off with the ceiling is the floor. Wiz, so what are you seeing here?
No, I just think it's a really curious like it kind of makes me go back to like, what are the Texans doing, right? Like you have this offensive line problem. You ship out a couple guys, and what do? You go draft 2 wide receivers in your first 2 out of your first 4 picks, and so I just like that to me was a red flag right there, because one of the issues that we were, Jax, you had kind of touched on it last year for him, was he was constantly under pressure, and we were almost, I don't want to say making excuses, but we were kind of justifying some of the bad play or regression or anything like that. And for them not to go ahead and address that, I think is just, it's doing him a disservice. I'm not saying that this is, some of this is not on him, but I just don't think that they've set him up for success with, like when you look at around the league, how some of these better teams are built is around that offensive line, especially when you have, a true pretty much pocket passer like CJ Stroud, right? Like, we were talking about fantasy floor earlier. He's not one of these guys that, Trav, I know you mentioned he's kind of up there in scrambles this year
No
from what we've
joke.
expected out of him, but really he's not that guy, right? Like he's not giving you that rushing floor week in and week out. That we've seen with some of the younger quarterbacks like Drake Maye and Jax, to your point, even Bo Nix, showing his legs. So I think the fact that you do have like a Joe Burrow like guy back there where you protect him, you want him to like pass from the pocket and have that volume that we've been looking for, right? Like the only way he's going to be able to capitalize on any of that volume is if he has time to go ahead and do that. And clearly he doesn't. I will say, some of the like adjusted completion percentage, like the only guy worse right now is Cam Ward.
Mhm.
Completion percentage over expectation, the only guy worse is Cam Ward. And it's, I don't know. I don't know how this gets better without fixing the offensive line. I don't necessarily dislike the wide receivers that they took in Noel and Higgins. And I still think Christian Kirk can be, at least somewhat of a productive piece. And then you've got legitimately like one of the top receivers in the NFL and Nico Collins. But if you can't protect the guy and he can't get the ball out, how does this get better? I don't see a world where this like turns around like quickly for enough for us to be like, all right, like we feel good about buying CJ Stroud or playing him going forward. I have serious concerns as far as like his production goes, especially Trav, when you highlighted like, going over 250 yards only a few times in the last 15 games. I saw a tweet the other day that when you look at CJ Stroud's last 15 and Anthony Richardson's last 15, and everybody was, wanting to write AR off, the statistics are like glaringly similar between their last 15 games for Stroud and AR. And look, I'm not saying that he's the passer that AR is, but like, we've got a problem here, and I just don't know how it gets fixed in the short term.
Yeah. Yeah, because thinking like the egg on their face if they're out in the trade market to try and find a shittier offensive lineman than they traded away this past offseason, right? I just think, yeah, a little bit of malpractice happening, a little bit of what the hell's happening with CJ Stroud, though, as well. So we watch. I think as far as what you do with him, like you just kind of keep him on your bench if you can in a super flex, but as a quarterback too, like, you might actually have some wide receivers who you could start over CJ Stroud right now, which is
And
wild
and
to
their
say.
defense has not been bad.
Yeah, it's a good defense. They got a really
Not
good
bad.
defense too, which does not play to him having fantasy scoring output. Kind of like what we were talking about with Joe Burrow and how shitty
Yeah.
their offense is going to
Yeah.
be. That team's just going to have to sling it, right? All right, guys, we're going to get into some trend spotting, but first, I just want to say a quick thank you to the listeners. If you
Oh
haven't
yeah.
already, please go subscribe to that channel. We love our listeners. I was talking to Wiz before, of course, this is his first foray into the underground. Just talking to him about all the jokes and the bits that we have and all the listeners we have that spit them back at us on Twitter or in the Discord or in the league chat. It's really cool to be a part of that, and it's kind of cool for just some random dudes to have people who enjoy us talking on a mic about football, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just a big thanks to all them. Jax, yeah,
Oh
anything?
yeah.
You're a part
Yeah,
of it
man.
too, right?
It's so much fun. It's one of those shows that like, my show that I've had is great. I love it. It's fantastic. But this has been a different kind of feeling and a different kind of camaraderie around the show, especially with those that are listeners that kind of they're in on what we're doing here. They're part of it. It's not like we don't do the show for them. We do the show with them almost.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it when I'm on Twitter. I had this guy ask me something. He was like, "Oh, be sure to let me know when you release this thing again." I was like, "Well, listen to the underground." He goes, "I am," it's like, he's like, "I'm listening," I'm like, sweet, so it's just kind of cool that everybody's kind of paying attention to the show. And I love it. It's a lot of fun. We brought another lunch pail onto the program. I mean, Wiz is very
Yeah,
lunch paily. I mean,
absolutely. Look at that stash. That thing is
PALE
not
pail. I
only
mean, we're
does
talking,
Wiz
look
have
at
a
it.
mustache, his mustache has its own lunch pail. Like, damn.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
This
It's the
love
first
is,
it.
one in, last one out.
100%. Yeah, real high motor guy. Yep.
Yep. It's got a good
I bet you
football
All
that
right.
IQ.
mustache is the first one in.
Yeah, coach's pet. Yeah.
Mm.
All right, boys. We're gonna get into some trend spotting as we are ones to do. I don't know if that saying works in that scenario,
Yeah,
but we're gonna try
you
it
did a
out.
good job.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to talk about the aforementioned Bo Nix because he has previously been a darling of the underground, talking about what he did last year, kind of overachieving expectations, definitely overachieving draft cost, which is one of the big things that we had been talking about. And then coming into this year, there was a lot of steam, a little bit of stuff added to that Broncos offense. But as we're seeing through 3 weeks, guys, he's only the quarterback 20 thus far, which is not great compared to our expectations. His completion percentage is 63.4%, which isn't much different than last year, which was 66.4. But the biggest difference I see is that the completion percentage over expectation this year is at negative 3.3%, whereas last year it was 1.4%. So some of that goes into like the windows that he's trying to throw into. Some of it can also go into the offensive play calling and the situations that he's been put in as far as the options he has to throw the ball to. So it's not necessarily just a Bo Nix problem. And we've seen some interesting things on this team already. They're not really in what they thought their final form was, with Evan Ingram in there and kind of RJ Harvey being that change of pace weapon that he is supposed to be. But what's your take, Jax? Because you were a big Bo Nix steamer and you mentioned it, like selling off of CJ Stroud's previous season hype to attach to what is now the Bo Nix hype. It's a good move. It's maybe not paying off right now, but sometimes process over results. Are these results going to get better?
I think so. I mean, look, some of his efficiency stats have been holding. His touchdown percentage, 5.1 last year, 5.3 this year. It's really just the volume and the yards per play. I think they've got to find a way to get back to some of that, the big plays that happen for them, right? They're able to get Marvin Mims streaking here and there, I don't know. They just haven't been making very many big plays. They haven't been possessing the football. You're right. Evan Ingram, I think, has been an issue not being on the field. You'd like to have some sort of, production from that tight end position. They just haven't been as good. They played some tough teams, whatever, right? I mean, we get over it, move on. I just think it's a little bit of small sample size. I think there's also, like, if we're talking narrative street, I think, I heard someone say that the Packers were talking about going undefeated after they went 2-0, right? Like, these guys are a little delusional sometimes. It's possible that Bo Nix is coming in being like, got this all figured out. Let me just fucking roll, baby. And like, he needed a little bit of humbling too. I think this is a humbling league. These guys, they go out there, they're really, really dope. They play good, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait, this is fucking hard, and they need to figure it out again. I just think that's where Bo Nix is at again. He just needs to realize that, being a superstar is really, really difficult. I mean, let alone just being proficient in this league is hard. Ask CJ Stroud, it's not easy. So I think that's really where they're at. And I think if he kind of just, refocuses, I mean, they only had 25 pass attempts against the Chargers. So, there's going to be different types of script and different type of, how the game sort of plays out. So, we'll see better days from Bo Nix. The rushing has been the same. I mean, he's basically, I just looked at it. He's like 25 yards per game,
Around there, yeah,
a
a little
little bit.
more.
Yeah, a little bit less per rush, only
Right.
3.7 or something like that. But I mean, it's not great actually, but it's not bad either. I think, you could probably see a little bit more variance there too. I mean, a couple big runs on a couple big plays here and there, So yeah, that can all change. He had, 4 rushing touchdowns last year, so far 0. So, I mean, just a little bit of, small sample variance and, some tough matchups, game scripts didn't go there in their favor. And yeah, I think all that, will come back around.
And only 3 weeks in too, right? So
Yeah.
chill. Wiz?
I think I do wonder if, coming off that rookie season where I think he did surprise a lot of people, myself included. I do wonder if Peyton kind of was in that same thing, and just if they've just put too much on his plate
Yeah.
early on this season. I think more easy buttons, as far as
Yes.
it feels like he's trying to push the ball downfield in spots that he, maybe he shouldn't be. And just looking at, some of his numbers here a few minutes ago, I mean, his catchable ball percentage is, 68.4%, which is, 31st out of 32 quarterbacks. Adjusted completion percentage is, 71.6, which is 4th worst. And completion percentage over expectation, like you were talking about earlier, he's also 4th worst there. I just think that, they do have some weapons there. Like, obviously Sutton's a downfield threat. We've seen him be a solid receiver for a while. Evan Ingram was out last game, but you've got him there as well. our guy Troy Franklin is starting to come on as well. So I do just wonder if, because you're starting to see, okay, maybe there's more pieces downfield. Are we opening up too much too quickly for him? Do we have to get back to not necessarily basics, but maybe just taking a look at some of the things that worked a little bit better his rookie season and just maybe simplifying things a bit, right?
I
And I
love the
also,
easy button. I love the
yeah,
easy button comment, man, because, who the hell were we talking about? I was like, it doesn't even matter. Like, you can talk about any quarterback. I think it was
yeah,
JJ McCarthy I had mentioned that about. I was like, you kind of, little jet sweep bootleg fake, in the flat, those little plays where it's like, oh yeah, we didn't even see that coming, but we'll stop it next time we see it. It's like some of those plays are just the types of plays that you can run a once or twice, in a game, or something like them every now and again. Little bootleg, little action, just stuff that makes it a little bit easier, like you say, and we're not seeing a ton of that with them, and I think they have to get
Mhm.
back to it. I totally love that, and they probably did a ton of that. I don't have the stats on
I
that.
was
I mean,
just, yeah,
you could probably
I was,
look at that type of stuff, like certain types of, play action, or, how many in the flat, how many, maybe you have something that shows that, but how many easy plays are sort of scripted up on a game by game basis last year versus this year? I got to believe it's down a little bit. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
probably is. He is, as far as, sorry, was their check down rate? He actually has the 12th highest check down rate in the league right now, as far as that's a part of the Peyton offense.
yeah,
I think like some of what you were talking about there, Jackson, and then Wiz with the easy button plays into some of that psychology stuff too that you're mentioning with too much on him, Wiz, right? Like get him some of those easy things, makes him kind of feel more confident. I'm fascinated by the psychology and like what these
yeah.
guys are thinking in the huddle, post snap, pre snap, and stuff like that. And I can't imagine how fast that stuff is moving. So yeah, when you have some of those easy things, makes you feel like you're more capable of hitting some of those deep shots,
It
which
kind of
he
also
is
moves
up there
it
for
mo
deep
it
attempts.
moves the defense too, right? If they're saying,
Yeah.
they keep dinking and dunking, we got to come up on this stuff. Now all of a sudden the stuff, across the middle and over the linebackers a little bit easier. So look, it's a beautiful ballet, this NFL, football, right? I mean, I love play calling. I love watching great play calling. I love thinking about how to manipulate the defense. I mean, there's so much of that happening in some of the best play callers, Shanahan, et cetera, right? We see it time and time again where it's like, dude, that just came wide open. Why? Because of the coaching. I mean, obviously the execution has to
Mhm.
be there, but scheming it up. So, Peyton's good enough to do it. They just need to get back to it. A little bit off, but I do believe here. I don't think he's a superstar, but I think he's pretty talented and he can do a lot of things. I think he's gonna be fine. We'll see.
I think when you see a lot of these, especially nowadays, right? A lot of these quarterbacks that are coming in the league, you do have that athletic element, and I think in order to capitalize on that, especially early on, where some of these guys are coming from these college offenses that are not typically pro offenses, you see them incorporate more RPOs as they're kind of getting up to
Right.
speed, right? And when you look at Bo Nix's RPO percentage in 2024, 7.2%. And so far this year, 4.7%, right? So just again, seeing that drop off there a little bit, does that have something to do with it? I'd love to look at play action rates too,
Yeah.
and kind of getting him on the move and stuff like that. But it does seem like maybe, all right, let's go back to maybe some RPO stuff, maybe some get the ball out, first read, and that's also how you can build a rhythm within the game for Bo as well, right? Like if he starts
Yeah.
off and he's got some RPOs going in the first quarter, he starts to get hot, it could look differently for him instead of taking those deep shots right out of the gate, right? So just I wonder if that's something that Sean Payton starts to look at here if Bo Nix continues to struggle.
Real quick question, Trav, if I may. Dynasty quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen. Clear 1, 2, 3. Jalen Hurts, 4. I like literally at 5 and 6, I have Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. You guys with me here
Mhm.
so far?
I'm not with you on
Well,
Mahomes.
Who are you going to put ahead of Mahomes?
Ahead of Mahomes?
Yeah, like because after 6, you can say, okay, do you still have Joe Burrow at 7, even though he's going to miss this season? Let's just put him there. I mean, after
what
7,
about
there it is. So
where
hold
do you
on,
okay.
go ahead. So after 7, if you believe in those top 7 or whatever, I was looking at the quarterback 8, and I had 10 names I could put at quarterback 8, and I could make a case for all of them. I'm wondering what you guys think as you look at this.
I just did an on the show adjustment of my dynasty rankings. So this is first crack. Have dug into numbers or anything like that. You're gonna love this, boys.
I
My
know who you're
quarterback
putting there.
8,
Yeah,
Drake
Caleb.
motherfucking Maye. It's Drake Maye. It's
Ooh.
Drake Maye. I have Caleb at 7, baby.
Where's
Go ahead,
Joe
Wiz.
ahead of who? Who's out of the top 6 then?
Joe Burrow is 9.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair. Yeah. And do you agree Herbert's in the top 6 now, the way he's playing?
Herbert's at 6.
Yeah.
Mahomes at 5. I could very, very easily see myself bringing Caleb and Drake Maye above Mahomes and Herbert. And that's
Wow.
one of our topics tonight, is about those guys and whether they're top 5 quarterbacks. But Wiz, I want you to get in on that one before we move into that topic, because that segue was too good for me not to go to that.
So the only thing with, look, I get like Mahomes is Mahomes, and if we're talking like real football games and stuff like that, like it's really hard to take almost anybody over the guy. Like I totally get that. But it kind of goes back to an element of the CJ Stroud argument, right? Is that what have they done around him? I get, look, they spent a first round pick on Xavier Worthy. I get it. Rashee Rice is not there right now. That also makes a difference. I'm not disagreeing with that. But just some of the play call, and maybe this, maybe this expands as Worthy gets more up to speed in second year, but they have been a dink and dunk offense now for like 2.5 years. And
For sure.
every single drive is like 15 plays. It's extremely
Not
difficult.
sure if you saw Tyquan Thornton going fucking yard, baby.
God damn it, dude.
Sorry,
yeah, that was so fucking annoying.
They've got him and Juju.
Oh God. Just seeing Tyquan actually do stuff down the field after after we've missed on how many receivers are able to do
All
stuff
of
down
them.
the field here.
All of them. Yeah.
But naturally, of course, he's going to go there and do that. But look,
by the way, serious note, how's your brother Efton doing?
he's on a milk carton right now, dude.
Tell me, does it look a little like Efton Chisholm's family?
Is he preparing his Hall of Fame speech? Is he
Yeah.
preparing his Hall of Fame speech yet, or what?
I mean, I don't know. After seeing Pop these first few games, you can't tell me that he'd be worse than that. Maybe he would, but like I find that hard to believe. Pop, it's been a brutal start for Pop.
Put the pail in there, but anyway, sorry. Continue on. So it wasn't necessarily a Mahomes conversation. My point was I really don't know who I have after that. If you want to make the case that he's not okay, so who else is there? Who's there after the Herbert Mahomes?
I think for me the takeaway,
because I have a name I want to say, but I'm waiting for someone else to say something. Just because if you stumble on the name I've got at 8, it's a lot of fun.
Is it Baker?
Mm-hmm.
I thought so.
Whoa.
He is working wonders with a devastated crew there. So I will give you that there is justification in that.
When is he going to stop being awesome?
Yeah,
I had a different name in mind for that, but
what is it?
Who you got?
I would have looked at, like, I'm taking some age into account here a little bit too, but I would have looked at Brock Purdy before I would have looked at Baker.
I do like Brock Purdy. Currently hurt, but I do like Brock Purdy. He's one of those 8 or 10 names or whatever. It's like Purdy is there, man. Bo Nix, Caleb, Drake Maye, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Jackson Dart. I'm joking, but I'm not.
Not even. You won't be in 3 weeks.
I was wondering how long it was going to take for Dart to come up.
You won't be in 3 weeks, brother. I'll tell you that.
Oh.
It's happening. It's happening. My biggest fear is that he's not quite ready to run an NFL offense. So Dable better fucking do right by him and not put him in a full NFL offense is all I got to say, or else he should lose his goddamn job.
He probably will lose his job, but I can't wait to trade for Dart after he has a couple of, maybe a bad game or something. That'll be the time to go back in and trade. Because people will be like, this guy sucks, and maybe he will suck. That's in the fucking cards for sure. But I will be confident enough to push the button. But yeah, Baker, I just thought, dude, who do I really want more at my, in my lineup right now than Baker Mayfield than all these other guys? I mean, Caleb, played the Cowboys. It's almost like you have to throw away all these Cowboy games. Look at Russell Wilson, Caleb. I'm not saying these guys are good or bad. Obviously, Russell's terrible, but it's hard. It's grading on a curve. You play the Cowboys. Obviously, you go yard.
Well, and it's not looking that great for Caleb, and we're going to move into those
Okay,
conversations there. And I
go for
must
it.
just say really quickly, for a peek behind the fourth wall to our listeners, just at how much of a pro Jax Falcone is, he just gave me the perfect segue into Caleb Williams and Drake Maye, and he didn't even look at the fucking show sheet for this show. Didn't even
I
look
didn't
at
even
it.
glance. No
He doesn't
glancing.
even glance at it every show. It's amazing, but he just knows. So yeah, Caleb Williams, guys, and to your point, Jax, like it's not all looking good. Like a ton of the advanced metrics are not looking good at all for him. I think the biggest thing that's kind of saving him, is Ben Johnson's creative play calling and the way that he gets his wide receivers so goddamn open. But then Caleb's delivering on deep passes. In 2024, he was atrocious in deep passing. He was number one in deep attempts with 73, but he had 27.4 completion percentage, which was 21st out of a 34 quarterback sample. This season, fourth in deep attempts, only 13, 3-game sample. We have to make sure we're not overreacting to that. But he's almost doubled his completion percentage to 53.8, and that's fifth best in the NFL right now, guys. And so I think despite some of those other things not being great, and I didn't necessarily note them down to be able to list them off, I think this can supplement some of that. You know what I mean? Some of the deep passing and explosives that they're going to get out of their weapons, which is still a stellar group of weapons, are going to supplement maybe some of those inefficiencies that he has on some of the underlying stuff. Wiz, you've probably gotten into some of the stuff here too. So let's hear what you got on Caleb Williams.
So some of this goes back to the infrastructure comments that we've been talking about with multiple guys now, right? And I think that, we can all agree that Ben Johnson is probably the best play caller in the league, if not top two, top three. And one of the things that the Bears have done, I'm not saying that the Bears are perfect. I think, Poles definitely has his flaws and everything like that. But what did you see them go out and do after, one, Caleb was sacked a lot last year. Yes, some of that was on him, but they went out and they really invested in the offensive line, right? Trading for Tooney, signed another guard as well, went out and got a new center. And then you have the bookends from the last couple of drafts at the tackles, right? And so I just think that investing in protecting him first and then going out, getting another weapon in Luther Burden. We're yet to see it yet with Colston Loveland, but you have to think that as he gets more up to speed and, gets used to the NFL game, you have to think as using a 10th overall pick on a tight end, unless we just have another Kyle Pitts here, that he's going to start to come into the fold a little bit. And we've just seen Rome ascend as soon as, he's out of that Shane Waldron realm. Right. And, I think there's probably still more for there's probably more room for DJ Moore to be better than he has been. He does seem like I don't want to call him a gadget guy in that offense right now, but they're definitely trying some stuff out with him, taking carries in the backfield and everything like that. But I just look at, what we've seen from Caleb in these, and I think Jax's point is extremely valid about playing the Cowboys, but what we've seen from Caleb in the first 3 games of a brand new offense that, if we're being honest about this, from everything that we've heard from a lot of people, Ben Johnson's offense are extremely technical. A lot of it's based on timing, and it can take time to pick up, right? Like Jared Goff was not the Jared Goff that we've seen the past 15 months or 2 years, those first few games with Ben Johnson, right? Like, so I do think from an infrastructure perspective, being tied to Ben Johnson and having those young weapons in that offense, I do like his outlook quite a bit. And some of that's still a bet on the raw talent, right? Like you see his ability from a rushing floor standpoint, what he can give you. And just that throw to Roma Dunze that he had that was basically flat-footed, like 65 yards in the air. Like there's a handful of guys in the league that can do that. And so the way I look at it is I like Caleb's infrastructure and outlook going forward strictly because of some of the things that are tied around him.
Yeah, I've been insufferable in the group chat whenever Rome scores. So Jax and Joe are well aware of all of it. I think, yeah, interesting conversation because he's such like a backyard quarterback too. And so having such a firm structure with Ben Johnson is a bit contrasting, but it seems to be working so far. And as noted in my quarterback 7 dynasty ranking, I am very, very confident that it's going to continue. So let's go to your guys' boy though, my quarterback 8 in Drake Maye, guys, because I think he is like a superstar in waiting. He's just kind of like laying a little bit dormant. He doesn't necessarily have the pieces around him yet to facilitate it. But I think what he's done so far is kind of lift up some of those pieces because it's not good as far as the pass catches he has to throw to. but very impressed with his passing. We talked about it as far as what he did last year as well, as far as completion percentage over expectation, and some of the other guys that we've talked about tonight. Drake Maye is fourth in the league in completion percentage over expectations at 9.4%, which is a large number over expectation. Finished 16th in that category last year at 2.5%. So it tells me that he is making the most of and getting more out of his situation than the average quarterback would. And that's not something that's tied to his legs. And that's the positivity, right? Because the legs were always there. He was always going to be a rushing quarterback. Right now, this season, he's giving you 4.7 fantasy points per game as just a runner. And that should be like floor for him in that realm. But the fact that he's showing as an adequate passer in a subpar situation is just the biggest point of confidence for me, and why I have him up into that fantasy quarterback 8 ranking. And so I'm feeling great about Drake Maye, and I'm sure both of you as Pats fans are as well. Jax, why don't you wax a little bit about your boy?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. He's been great, actually. Let's see. He was so good last year on a per touch basis, rushing the football this year, still pretty good, about 30 yards per game. So the rushing is still there. I know that they said something about giving him some more, design runs. I don't really care as much about that. I think he's more lucrative on the scrambles and stuff like that. But look, here's another look. Drake Maye, as you pointed out, went from 66% completion percentage now to 72. So completion above expectation is great. Touchdown percentage is fine, 4.7%. He's not turning the ball over, only 2 interceptions thus far, although he did have a brutal fumble in the game of 4 fumbles, which don't even get me started how awful that was against the Steelers. We should have won that game. But his QBR, 55 last year, 57.7 this year. It's a pretty solid number. I mean, this is a really good number in the NFL, actually, anything in that ballpark. And so I think he's okay. I think he's fine. He probably is the quarterback 8. His passing numbers are way, way up, as he's actually at 260 yards per game. So yeah, I don't think they've played a cupcake schedule. I mean, Miami obviously was kind of the easy one. I guess the Raiders too. I mean, maybe they did, and he's just, I don't know. I suppose the more I think about it, I'm just a little bit lukewarm with the whole thing, only because of the offense. The weapons are kind of irregular, but God, they do such a good job of getting Hunter Henry involved right now. It's really awesome to watch. Like, he's just running wide open a lot of the times, or on little play action stuff. Yeah, I wish they had one good wide receiver, Efton, get in there, show them what's up. I think that would actually help. I mean, they've got to find something at the wide receiver position, whether it's Kyle Williams. They just don't have anything threatening downfield. So that I think is their number one need right now, and I think that would really open things up for Drake Maye. But he's been great, So yeah, I'm okay with him at quarterback 8. Yeah, sure, let's go, let's ride.
I just think from what we've seen from him, there is some of the decision-making stuff in the passing game. I'm loving what I'm seeing. Looking at his time to throw, he's 2.54. It's the 5th fastest in the league. Turnover-worthy plays, he's 4th best. Off-target percentage, he's 3rd best. Catchable ball percentage, he's 3rd best. Adjusted completion percentage, he's 2nd best. And completed percentage over expectation, he's 2nd best. Right? So I love the steps that he's taken in the passing game. His clock needs to get so much faster in his head when it comes to you can't win the game on every play. The fumbles have to really start, curbing a little bit. That one that he had against the Steelers was just incredibly infuriating. And, Vrabel kind of said it in the days after. It was like, look, you can't win the game on every single play. But I think the fact that we're seeing this kind of progression from him from a passing perspective in the first 3 games with Josh McDaniels in a brand new system, and you couple that with he's really not throwing to much of anything, I think, how can you not love his outlook? I keep going back to it, but do we trust the Patriots to either, if we can't do it via the draft, can you invest in the wide receiver position elsewhere? Maybe some of this is okay. Some people weren't expecting Diggs to play that first month of the season. He ended up playing. is he getting to the point where he actually starts to ramp up and be more of a contributor? I think the Kyle Williams experiment has to start at some point. And we saw a couple targets last week. I would love to see some more of that. Booty has been like a little nice surprise, but I just don't think he's like necessarily a reliable player. What McDaniels has done with the running backs in the passing game has been fantastic. And I think that's some of the easy button stuff that we talked about with Bo Nix earlier and everything like that. Clearly Josh is kind of trying to do that with Drake as well, right? I think that 2.54 time to throw is speaking to, all right, let's get the ball out quick in some situations. But look, when I think about like trying to Jax's point, like trying to upgrade that, that skill set around him is like, wouldn't this be like a perfect match for like, what if they just called the Saints about Chris Olave? Like I mean, like I think he's on his 5th-year option and the Saints are going nowhere, like fast. They're in one of the worst cap situations in the league. I don't know if Kellen Moore is going to like sign up to trade away his wide receiver 1, who is leading the NFL in targets, by the way.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, for like 50 yards total. But I don't know.
But just target earning is a skill.
Target earning is a skill. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely would like to see them try and invest in some skill guys around him, because it does seem like they started to take those steps with Will Campbell. Bringing in Morgan Moses on the right side of the line. And, Jared Wilson, I think obviously 3rd-round rookie, but like he has, had some impacts on that side as well. So if you've figured something out with Campbell and Wilson over there and you've kind of solidified that line, you feel good about, what's going. I think when you look at a lot of the offensive line metrics, we were 32nd last year in almost everything, and seeing us just kind of move to the middle of the pack is very encouraging. But it's really hard to get excited about his true ceiling when he's throwing to the skill group that he's throwing to.
Yeah, I'll give you, so just to pile on Pop Douglas real quick, a good number for yards per route run is like, 2-3 is amazing. I mean, right now, JSN's like 4 point something, 4.6 or some crazy thing.
482.
482 yards per route run.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Pop Douglas is 2.6 yards per reception. Per reception.
Bad.
He is 1.0 yards per target. I don't know what his yards per route run are. I'm not looking. I refuse. But lower than that. So
lower than that.
Pop Douglas not getting it done right now on a per target, per route run, per catch, per nothing basis. You'd like to see Kyle Williams or Efton Chisholm maybe get some of those snaps and see if that can turn things around.
Do you want to hear what his yards per route run is right now?
What is 0.3?
0.24.
Unfortunately, it's lower. Yeah, it's 0.19.
No!
0.19.
Wow. Incredible.
Wow. What's the opposite of popping? Because I don't think he should be Pop Douglas anymore.
No. Deflate Douglas.
Yeah, this is Deflate Douglas. Fitting for the team he's on, too.
Deflate. Oh, sheesh. Easy.
Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I said it. I had to.
I mean, come on. That's like hey, by the way, did you hear I was listening to Ringer, Bill Simmons and Cousin Sal, they had a great nickname for Drake Maye.
Oh, it's
Drake Maybe.
Drake Maybe is so good. It's so good. I can't deny that's so good. Deflate Douglas is pretty good.
Yeah, and that's where you guys landed on Drake Maye was hard maybe. What positive signs?
I think he's the guy. Signs. It's just to see that ceiling that we want to see, they've got to upgrade around him.
Yep.
Okay, Wiz, you got the last trend spotting here because you told us before the show you did a little bit of work on some wide receiver trends that you've seen happening. So let's talk about them.
So I want to start off with one of the guys that graded out as one of the worst wide receivers in the model, because I do want to kind of give some credit where credit's due here. And seeing what Ricky Pearsall has done these first 3 weeks, it's hard not to like some of the things that we've seen.
Absolutely.
Especially when you take into account that, one, they don't have their near complement of weapons in the passing game. So if anything, defenses are able to kind of shift focus towards him just because Jennings has been out, Kittle has been out. Ayuk is obviously still in the pup and everything like that. And then the other thing is Mac Jones has been his quarterback for 2 of those games. Now, maybe
Mac
Mac Jones is
Jones,
like maybe he's a kingmaker wide receiver, as we saw with BTJ
Kingmakers for
last year.
sure. Yes.
Mini Matthew Stafford from a kingmaker wide receiver perspective. But no, I just think that what he's done with the opportunity that he's been given this year is pretty impressive. He's third in the league in reception yards. He's 2.60 yards per route run, which is fifth.
Legit. Yeah.
And I think especially this early in the season, yards per route run can be kind of, tweaked a little bit. If you have a big play or something like that, I remember Jamison Williams, popping early on last year. But I think one of the things that in conjunction with that yards per route run, his first downs per route run is at 0.13, and that's eighth best out of wide receivers right now. So,
Yep.
and I think when you look at his fantasy points per game and his expected fantasy points per route run, like his expected fantasy points per route run is 16th best right now out of all wide receivers. So I really think what he's done, given that opportunity in that offense and how bad they've needed it, he's been really impressive so far.
Yes. Yeah, I had mentioned, Wiz, you'll appreciate this. The model, is a statistical model. It doesn't have any vibes. There's no vibes. There's no bullets taken per route run. And I was saying that, is Anthony Richardson that bad that he actually dragged down a good receiver in our model? Like, there has to be an Anthony Richardson,
At Florida.
asterisk caveat to the model, because he was so bad that, I mean, it might be somewhat true that Ricky Pearsall's numbers were sort of held back because of terrible quarterback play. It's it's part of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we kind of talked about that with a little bit with Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy with Quinn Ewers, right? Like, obviously we haven't seen it from Adonai yet, but there is that argument to be made, Jax. I definitely think that's fair.
It's just interesting because, I
It
mean,
is.
I was not anti Ricky Pearsall. If you notice, like, I've pointed out a few times here and there that Ricky Pearsall did not score well, but I've never been like, I'm betting against this guy with everything I've got. It's no way. I've said that about like Isaac Tesla or whatever. Like, I'm never betting against players in such a hard manner that I'm like calling them names or whatever. That's not really my style. But like, I do understand range of outcomes, and with Ricky Pearsall, I was more open to it. I mean, the kid was also a first round pick, right? So there's definitely something there. So yeah,
Yeah, and I think one of the things to keep in context too with the Pearsall thing is, like, if this is why it's really important to do both the analytics side as well as the film side, because from an analytics perspective, like if we're just looking at this objectively, receivers with his analytical profile in college, like the odds of them hitting are just, they're not high. But
right.
then when you listen to, some of the respected film guys in the fantasy space and everything like that, a lot of guys, Brett Whitefield over at Fantasy Points, Matt Harmon has had some nice things to say about Pearsall from a route running perspective. So there is that to kind of keep in mind as far as like, okay, maybe truly that situation was so bad with the quarterback play. And, he did battle some injuries in college as well. Did it just take the right situation? And look, he landed with Kyle Shanahan, right? Like one of the best play callers.
I was going to say,
in the league.
First round pick with, great play caller, and all of a sudden, like, the doors swing open for him opportunity wise. Kittle goes down, Debo's out of town, Juwan Jennings is down, Ayuk ain't there. Like, I mean, you can't ask for a better runway for opportunity. All that being said, I am a little bit dubious as to whether or not he keeps this type of thing up going into, Kittle and Ayuk coming back. I'd be dubious. I mean, do I think he's a bad player? I do not. I am not saying he's bad. I think he's a good player. But I do think that there's probably a reckoning to come. And right now, if you can sell high on Pearsall, I think it's actually a smart move to sell high, not because I hate the player, but just, a value-based situation here.
I absolutely agree, because there is a world in the not too distant future that Kittle's back, Juwan Jennings is back full time, and then Ayuk's back, right? And so I think at that point, Pearsall becomes a more valuable real life football player than he does maybe fantasy player, right? Like he makes them incredibly well rounded from a passing perspective, with Purdy coming back as well. But I do, from like an expected fantasy points per game and everything like that, I just don't see how his opportunities don't go down.
Right.
And then he would just have to keep that elite level efficiency that he is kind of, that we're seeing from him right now. One of the other trends here, like everybody knows how good it's been, but like just to highlight how good JSN has been, like if we really want to, because what I want to lead this into is, where is he now among the dynasty wide receiver landscape? So
I
if
have
you
an
just
answer.
look,
a little bit. Yeah.
so if you look at just kind of where he's at so far season to date, target percentage, he's first at 37.7. Targets per route run, he's at 0.43, second only to Puka. Reception yards, 323 yards, second in the league. Yards per route run, as we said, 4.82 yards per route run. First downs per route run, he's second at 0.209, only to Puka. Fantasy points per route run, 0.89, second. Fantasy points per game, 19.8, he's fourth. And one of the biggest predictors is expected fantasy points per route run. He's 0.71, he's first out of all wide receivers. And so, we saw it last year. He really kind of came into his own. He had that top 10 finish last year. DK leaves. You do start to wonder, okay, Clint Kubiak's coming in. What's it going to look like, especially with kind of what we saw in New Orleans last year? Really that run heavy approach, a lot of play action, stuff like that. And then the other thing was, is Darnold going to be the quarterback that we saw in Minnesota, or is he going to be the quarterback that we kind of saw leading up to that, right? Like without KOC, like what's that going to look like? And I think it's just pretty clear that JSN's just like fucking awesome.
Yes,
It's
that's right.
and so where does he land for you guys in like the dynasty landscape of the top wide receivers now?
We parsed this one out last week, Jax. Go.
Yeah, I mean, right now, but he's moved up again for me. And with the CeeDee Lamb injury, I have him just ahead of CeeDee
Really?
Lamb. I have him just ahead of CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 6 overall right now.
Wow.
I have no problem with JSN being in this elite company. He's producing like elite company. He's producing like an elite wide receiver. There's no signs of this slowing down. He's young. He's a target earning machine. He scored well in every sort of analytical model there is, including ours. I don't know what more you want from a wide
Who?
receiver than where he is right now. So I think he's in that elite tier. I have CD at 7, JSN at 6, Amon-Ra 5, and
Okay.
then the god tier of Jefferson, Puka, Chase, and Neighbors. And the only reason Lamb is down is because of the injury, and I'm not exactly sure when he comes back. And he may be in an infuriating start. So if you're looking for production in 2025, I think you could probably buy JSN plus for Lamb right now, and you get the production for 2025. I'm into that. I totally think that after that, it's there's a lot of question mark players. I mean, your boy, yes, I'm talking about you, Mrs. Dunze. Your boy is making
Oh,
a
you're
case. Your
yes.
boy is
Oh, dude.
making a case to be a
He's
top 10 dynasty wide receiver right now. I can no longer deny.
he's
This is
already dynasty wide receiver 12 for me. And that's probably low versus my feelings considering he's my son.
I have him at
Um,
11.
you have it. Oh, I'm putting him up to 10 now. I can't do it.
How can you
Um,
allow me to have him higher than you?
I
Although I
can't.
probably should move him down. He's in
He
that tier. I probably have Tet over. It's real. Do you want Roma Dunze or Tet McMillan? Like this is close.
That's fucking close, man. Yeah,
Tet's
yeah. I got him
great.
in the 9 or
I'll
10
take
spot.
Rome.
I can't get him
Rome,
ahead of Nico.
right.
Him and BTJ is the conversation for me at 10 and 11.
I'll take him over BTJ.
Yeah, that's fine. I still think BTJ is going to be fine because he's
He's
so
fine,
damn
but I'll
good.
take him ahead of
I'm not
BTJ.
even sure. I'm not even sure I'm ready to put like I have JSN at 6 as well, but I have Amon Ra outside of my top
Yeah.
6, and so that's the
I feel like
difference
we're
there,
forgetting
right?
somebody, guys.
Are
Drake
we?
London?
Rasheed Rice.
Oh, he's not even close for me.
He's
Not
getting
even
Wow.
close for me.
close to that for me. No, I
Why?
got him
So
at
what's
19.
the argument for him being down there?
I mean, he won't even be back this season until CD Lamb is back. So if we're talking about 2025 production, he doesn't come into that dynasty top 12 for me.
Here's the real issue. Mrs. Rice made a potato salad for the potluck, and everybody liked Mrs. Rice's potato salad more than Miss Odunze's potato salad. And so Miss Odunze holds a grudge against Rashi. That's what happened. Am I right?
We will see. We will see when Rashi gets back, Jax. We will see.
We will
No,
see.
because
I'm all
I
in.
liked her potato salad. Thank you very much. Fuck.
So yeah, Rashi's in there. I mean, who would you rather have, Rashi Rice or Nico Collins in Dynasty Wiz?
Easy.
God, after the CJ Stroud argument or discussion that we had earlier, like I think I would take
Nico's
Rasheed.
still doing it. Nico's still doing it.
Doing
I
with
think
what?
I would take Rasheed.
with CJ looking like shit. Nico is still looking fine.
I have Nico one
Rasheed
slot
Rice
ahead of
over Nico Collins.
I have one
I,
slot. They're back to back for me. Yeah,
You are high.
not yet.
Maybe.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Tylenol's kicking in a little bit.
Guilty. Guilty. Yeah. Yeah, that Tylenol you snorted. How you feeling over there, brother? Huh?
Woo!
You been flying this whole fucking time? Do you even know where you
Yeah,
are?
this shit is bad for you. I like it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. You got any more wide
So
receivers on that list there, there, Wiz?
yeah,
let's hear
just
it.
a couple to call out. I mean, your boy, right? Like, I think now's the perfect time to kind of talk about it. But just seeing the step that Adunze has taken so far this year,
Incredible.
he's 14th in targets per route run. He's 10th in first downs per route run. He's 14th in yards per route run. He's 4th in fantasy points per route run, and he's 4th in expected fantasy points per route run. Right, and obviously with his touchdown positive variance that we've seen from him so far, his fantasy points per game, he's 20.9 right now. He's third amongst all wide receivers, but I just think you're really starting to see him flourish with a real play caller. Trav and I were talking before the show. It's just really funny that Shane Waldron continues to get jobs because as soon as he left LA, Cup explodes. As soon as he left Seattle, JSN explodes. As soon as he left Chicago, Rome explodes. And then as soon as he gets to Jacksonville, we've seen BTJ take a step back. Is
Problems.
that all
Right.
Waldron? I don't know. But like, it's amazing that
It's
this guy
a
keeps getting
coincidence if
jobs.
it ain't nothing. Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
Liam Cohen on that same team had sick wide receivers in Tampa, but he
Yeah.
brought in Shane Waldron to bring everything down.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, I just think what Rome's done has been great. And then just as kind of another guy that I think has been in about as bad at quarterback situations and even team situations as you could be in, but specifically quarterbacks. What Garrett Wilson has done so far this year is
Yes.
also pretty exciting. Target percentage, he ranks third. Targets per route run, he's seventh. Yards per route run, he's 12th. First downs per route run, he's 20th. And fantasy points per game, he's at 18.6, which is seventh best. So, and that's with a combination of, Fields and
Yeah,
Tyrod. And I
no
just think
drop off either.
no drop off. And I mean, if anything, I was kind of excited when Fields went out just because I felt like he was going to be able to be more efficient with Tyrod. Not saying that Tyrod's great, but yeah, I just think that what Wilson has done, maximizing his opportunity there. And if we just look at scenarios and production, we've talked about 2025 production and everything like that. He's just so clearing away that alpha there, and he's going to get propped up by volume. So, and look, we saw Justin Fields support DJ Moore to a really strong fantasy season. So, Fields ends up being the guy the rest of the year. I have high hopes for Wilson the rest of the way. And then just kind of lastly here, just shout out Keenan Allen for just being a fucking
No
professional wide receiver that is still awesome. Seeing him again, leave Chicago last year, come back to LA. He's 14th in target percentage, 6th in targets per route run. He's 22nd in yards per route run. He's 5th in fantasy points per route run, and he's 11th in expected fantasy points per route run. So just seeing what he's been able to do seamlessly, just get back with Herbert and give that offense like another real, a real option outside of McConkey. And after the emergence of QJ, it's just been cool to see Keenan Allen still do his thing.
Yep, Keenan Allen single-handedly making my offseason Lad McConkey takes look good. Am I right, Jax? Am I right? I'm going to bring us into these rookie heat checks, boys. Let's try and be a little quicker, maybe just bang them out here, have a nice digestible epi for the people. But we talked about some Bears wide receivers. There's another one who we might be looking for that ascension next season. But could we be looking for it sooner with one Luther Burden, boys? He had that dope 65-yard touchdown in week 3, and I think that's just a glimpse of some of the stuff that we're going to potentially see from him after the catch. He still has only run 20 routes on the season, so I think we need to make sure that that cold water is poured on. Just because he's not getting very much play time, he is just in week 3, he made the most of the playing time against the worst passing defense in Dallas. Another note too, like if you're playing your matchups in any given week, play whoever you've got against Dallas because their passing defense is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And so for Luther, I'm hopeful. Like, I think we were already prepared on the show that maybe he's a bit of a net zero for this year, and anything that he does for you is that cherry on top. But that cherry on top is looking a little bit more likely if he keeps doing stuff like this. And I mean, is there even scenarios where DJ Moore gets traded in season this year potentially, boys? Like, I don't know. Could we be looking at Luther Burden as something productive on our teams by the end of 2025, Jax?
It's possible. It's possible. I was looking at Luther Burden as sort of a lost 2025. Anything I got from him in 2025 was a bonus. He's even on a couple of taxis for me because I didn't think I would need him this year. And if I did, that was probably in trouble anyway. So, just sort of utilizing a taxi spot for him on a couple spots. Look, I think at the end of the day, he performed great. I mean, a lot of this production for him is coming on one play, so we can't overrate it. I also think, like, in redraft or whatever, I'm not picking him up because there's not enough opportunity for him. He's not running enough routes. It's not enough. But he was good, and he's dope, and we expect him to be really good if he gets enough targets in the NFL. I mean, it was never an issue of like, I wonder if this guy's athletic enough and good enough to make plays in the NFL. Nope, he is for sure. We know that. It's just whether or not he can earn targets and earn enough routes. That was it. I mean, Wiz and I have been talking about this. We put this model together. Wiz was a big part of it with Jay Wood, and look, being able to earn targets and be on the field is kind of everything. Like, what else do you want to know? And that was one of the reasons, by the way, I didn't mention anything about Garrett Wilson. I was a big proponent of Garrett Wilson because dude had been earning targets for 3 seasons in the NFL with good quarterback play, bad quarterback play, in up and down, different guys. It was never the same guy 2 weeks in a row in some cases, and dude was like 150 plus targets every single season. That's a skill. Whether Luther Burden can kind of become a player like that is a big question. We don't know if he can actually be able to, is he like a JSN Amon-Ra guy? I'm not sure. If he is, then the sky is the literal limit because he's such a better run after catch player than all those players that earn targets. So again, he doesn't need a ton of targets. I comped him a little bit to DJ Moore, just in that sort of big body player who can make plays with the ball in his hands. I mean, he could play running back like they're doing with DJ Moore. He's that type of player. I just don't know when it happens and if it happens, when it happens, if you know what I mean. But he's awesome.
I think the way I look at Luther Burden is it's extremely similar to Jax, right? One, I don't think they trade DJ Moore in season. So if anything, like the 2025 last year thing, I think that's valid. And then two, we kind of talked about it earlier, but you draft a tight end at 10 overall. At some point, he's going to get up to speed and he's going to start earning targets. We've already talked about how Rome is really starting to establish himself as not only the absolute alpha on that team, but one of the alpha wide receivers in the league. And so then I just start thinking about, okay, like how does that work? And right. I do think eventually the roadmap for Luther Burden is DJ Moore eventually exiting the Bears and having that opportunity to be the wide receiver too. I would almost view him more as like a Zay Flowers type, where he has these big weeks where he can kind of go off and really be that boom or bust guy. But I do worry about consistent target. Like, is he going to be like a T Higgins number 2? I don't necessarily know if I see that. Right. Especially like in a Ben Johnson offense that, as we've seen, when there's weapons everywhere outside of that alpha, like Amon-Ra, he's more than happy to spread it around to a plethora of other guys. So yeah, I think his target, like his ability to earn targets at that level that we're maybe hoping for to get that huge breakout, is something I would keep in mind.
Yeah, I think he's maybe an eternal wide receiver 2 for those reasons, unless something changes, which I don't foresee it. I think he's not quite the finished product that Rome Odunze is in terms of being able to do it all outside the whole thing. I think Luther Burden's very talented. And then, if DJ Moore were to depart, then everything kind of changes a little bit, because you can even see Ben Johnson's willingness to use DJ Moore out of the backfield, give him straight up handoffs, like off tackle handoffs. It's like very interesting to watch that happen with DJ Moore. I'm like, oh shit, number 2, let's go. What are you doing? It's kind of weird, but I think the same thing could be happening with Luther Burden, whether it be little jet sweeps, tosses, misdirection stuff, reverses, right? All these sort of things that you can kind of get a guy like Luther Burden just getting to the ball, screens, like, wide receiver screens, tunnel screens, all these things that you can do. Not to say that you must do that for him. I think he's a real boy. He can play wide receiver. He's not Pinocchio out there. He's not Kadarius Toney, who, by the way, was drafted over Christian Darrisaw, who's like one of the most important players in Minnesota. Thought I'd point that out one more time. But I remember that. I was like, well, what are we doing,
How
New York
about
Giants?
How about this one for Luther? What if he's a wide receiver too in the mold of like Devontae Smith for the Eagles? Except what I think it could be, and not necessarily player profile for player profile,
Right.
production profile for production profile.
Yeah.
Like Devontae Smith putting up 1,000-yard seasons alongside AJ Brown. I think it really Colton Loveland is a huge factor in this for sure, Wiz. But I think in a similar volume role as Devontae Smith, which is never 100 targets. I think Luther Burden could absolutely produce maybe more than Devontae Smith, considering the offense that he's a part of, as opposed to the snail show they're running over in Philadelphia right now.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that kind of pops into my head too was obviously no one's Debo, right? But what if it's like a Debo light role where you utilize him in the screen game? You kind of, to your point, right? Like we've seen what they're trying to do with DJ Moore with some handoffs and everything out of the backfield, just some jet sweeps. Maybe that eventually becomes his role because he is a guy that when you get the ball in his hands, typically like he's able to make stuff happen after he has the ball in his hands, yards after catch, whatever. So I do wonder if there's, he's just a really nice blend of, he has an ability to stretch the field at times and earn some targets, but he's more of like a manufactured touch guy. But
yeah, you can do both with him is kind of the point. You're not like, you see Kadarius Toney coming, you're like, all right, watch out for the fucking screen or whatever stupid ass shit they're going to run with this idiot. Whereas, Luther Burden can play a full, complement of snaps. Yeah. But I think what I guess I'm getting at is if I'm a play caller, I love having Luther Burden because it's like I can do cool shit. Be like, hey, I was thinking about doing this thing where he da-da-da, and then pitch it out to him. It's like, yeah, Luther could do that shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not going to do that with Rome Odunze. I mean, as great as he is, you're not doing that type of stuff for him. So, you know what I mean? So he can be a pretty, diverse player for them, but it's going to take DJ Moore to get out of here. So,
yeah. So we're going to talk about he who shall not be named now. Okay. There was a time where Jax wouldn't even acknowledge this player, neither in his heart or in fantasy drafts, and that would be one Travis Hunter. Now,
looks like I might have been right about that.
Yeah, no doubt. And he made us notice after week 1 with those 8 targets, solid performance. Looked like he could even be potentially the lead target getter on this team.
This guy's he's a rich man's Pop Douglas is what he is.
That's not very
That's what
nice.
you want to hear about your second overall pick.
Not very nice.
Did you see Wiz?
Ouch.
Whoa. Yeah, that was great.
I saw a tweet this week, guys, from Mike Clay that said it had a little bit of info on Travis Hunter's playing time. So in week 1, Travis Hunter had 8 offensive targets and played 10% of the defensive snaps. In week 2, he had 6 targets, played 60% of defensive snaps.
Wow.
Week 3, he had 2 targets. He played a very nice 69% of defensive snaps, guys.
Wow.
Is he a fucking cornerback? Like, is this not even a wide receiver that we're looking at anymore? Maybe he's maybe he's adjusting to the game as a corner quicker than he is as a wide receiver, and that's where he provides more value. We've seen De'Ami Brown put a dent in his targets. We saw Parker Washington put up an 11 spot in the target column this past week. And so they're spreading this ball around to the detriment of Travis Hunter and BTJ. And it seems like they're starting to think about putting Travis Hunter on defense more. And so what the fuck are we to do as dynasty managers? Now, I have 0 cares and 0 shares. 0 shares, 0 cares. I said it backwards, Jax. Damn it.
I have 1 share.
Yeah. And you got it late, though.
Hey, hold on. I have 1 share and 1 care. And it is a co-managed team with yours truly, Mr. Wiz. Is that your only share too, pal?
Yeah, that's my only share.
He fell to us at like the 108, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, at that point it was like, all right, like I don't want to go back and look at that draft board though.
Yeah, we probably passed on Ibuka.
Yeah.
Fuck me. I don't even want to think about that.
That hurts. That hurts. Yeah. I mean, you got to think better days are somewhat ahead, but you're not banking on anything with them. and he's just kind of are you dropping him in redraft right now, boys?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Redraft.
Trav,
I mean,
or
yeah.
sorry, Jax. I feel better. Ibuka went one pick before.
Thank God.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
God. Okay, good.
I'm happy about that for you guys.
Whew.
We might have had to
Okay.
end the show if you guys found that out right now and you guys just realized that. We would have had to end
I
this
don't think
thing
I
right
would have
now.
let that happen. I don't think Jax
I,
would have
I
let that
actually
happen either.
I have one other share where my brother took Ibuka one spot ahead of me as well, and I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!"
Yeah.
Who doesn't take Travis Hunter ahead of Ibuka? Come on, this is consensus. Get with the program. Give
Yes.
me Ibuka. God dang it! Yeah,
I
because
mean,
know
the
I
other thing
wanted
is,
Ibuka there too. Of course,
oh yeah,
obviously.
Mhm.
So there's
and
two more spots I should have had Ibuka.
the thing
Smart
is too,
people.
when you listen to some of the things that Cohen has said, right? Like he's already come out and said, like earlier this week, even earlier today, that his role is not going to change due to injuries or anything like that, right? And so it does seem like if we're talking like production and everything like that, 2025 is absolutely a lost season. But then you start playing the game of like, okay, if that's a lost season, how long is this going to take for him to actually move into a role where he's going to be startable? Never mind like a real asset. I'm talking about just like
Mhm.
startable.
Yeah.
Like, and the
Hard to
problem is
see.
now, like right now, you can't sell him if you just took him in the first
We
round.
can try.
Yeah,
I
but
guess we could try, but
We could try.
you're
I mean,
taking a bath on that hard.
I'd be happy to take a bath on it. I'll take a
Yeah.
bath on it. I was dubious the whole way. You guys, we talked about it. I was just like, because there's so much uncertainty. I mean, we already have the number one fear of all players, which is, are they going to be good or not? And the talk of him being this sort generational, just unbelievable. I never sort of bought that. I was like,
No.
is he? This is Deion Sanders, but better at wide receiver. Are you sure about that? Like, I just didn't ever feel that way. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm a little bit dubious. This 69% defensive snap share, quite alarming.
Very, very.
like,
Yeah,
he
I
may
had
be
to
like a
screenshot that
generational
one the second I
athlete.
saw it. Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, either you're going to produce for us at the wide receiver position or you're not. So,
Yeah.
all that stuff is like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of it, but I'm pretty sure that, I'm not feeling it so much. I don't think he's ever going to be this sort of number one wide receiver. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. At this point, I'd just rather
You're
sell
right.
and move on if you could. I mean, don't you
I
think?
think
Fair.
I think the only way that we see him like would ascend to that level is if he like picked one and like
Correct.
Yeah.
like one side or the other. But what we keep hearing from both Cohen and him is that that's not going to happen.
Right.
So,
No.
and that's where I just have a tough time seeing like his long term outlook get to a point where he's one of those real assets that you feel good about starting.
Bingo.
And let
Yep.
somebody else have that headache. Just let
Yeah.
somebody else deal with that. So we're going to go from kind of a bummer to probably the happiest moment of the
Yes.
entire week, boys. We have an upgraded lunch pail for one Cam Skattebo because that role is set to increase. This actually does come by way of injury as well. Tyrone Tracy hurt his shoulder,
Yep. That's
but I
okay. We're
think
not
it
celebrating that.
no, it was inevitable anyway, and
Yes.
so I mean, it sucks for Tracy. So, like you said, this is not a celebration of that,
Mm-mm.
but you can't deny the upgraded lunch pail for Cam Skattebo. And when you are a lunch pail pulling backflips in the end zone,
Lunch
driving
pails
your
don't do that.
your
No.
head into defenders, just getting fired up on we love you. We
Yes.
fucking love you, Cam Skattebo. I was skeptical. I've been skeptical about him breaking away runs in the NFL. Maybe still am. Not skeptical of him breaking tackles, though. That's for damn sure. Not skeptical of him catching passes and running routes, boys. Him and the aforementioned Trey Benson were both top 10 in routes run among the running back position this past week. Cam Skattebo had Tyrone Tracy went out early. He had 21 routes in that game and he caught a bunch of them. And so ceiling is looking way better for one Cam Skattebo after just 1 week of full-time play. We talked about one Jackson Dart coming in as the quarterback.
Dude.
I think that could bode well for him. I wonder how Jackson Dart running maybe impacts some of that, but I don't think Jackson Dart is like a Lamar style runner where it's going to be
No.
tanking
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think wheels are looking up, boys. Cam Skattebo looks dope from a fun to watch perspective and from a put him in your running back 2 slot. and take him to the bank perspective.
I may have to pull the Theo Greminger comp after watching the backflip, because there's no way Greminger's pulling that shit off. I just
True
say that
that.
right now.
You might have to ask. Yeah.
Someone clip this and send it to Theo, because there's 0% chance. I mean, he can run some dudes over like that. Like, I think he can truck stick, but no chance on the backflip. So the Theo Greminger comp is falling apart at the seams here. Skattebo, I mean, Skattemode, which is like beast mode, but Skattemode.
Shout out to Joe. Shout out to Joe for one that he wants to do. Oh, scat, motherfucker. Oh, scat, goddamn.
That's
From
a
the end
longer nickname.
zone. Yeah. Okay.
We're having fun with Skattebo.
Yeah. Wiz?
I think
you gonna add to that or no? I mean, right?
Well,
I mean,
I can't top your guys' nicknames. I got nothing on that. That's all you guys.
Hashtag analysis right there.
Marshall
they
Chalk.
even Marshall Chalk is good. They even brought in
guys.
They brought in a lunch pail quarterback to make him feel more comfortable.
That's true.
This is all good.
It is lining up for him. No, I think one of the things that is exciting about him, and that you guys kind of talked about it too, is that yes, his style is one thing, is just so endearing, but looking at his, like, that skill set that we had kind of talked about earlier with Trey Benson, right? I think even so, when you look at, there's been 38 running backs to run at least 30 routes. He's 5th in yards per route run. And here are the names ahead of him: Jalen Warren, Ramondre. Some of that is because that long play that Ramondre had. CMC, Brees Hall, and then Skattebo. He's above Bijan. He's above Achane. He's above Travion. So, like, again, I'm not saying that he's like built in the same mode as those guys, but
he did this in college.
And he was actually, like, when you look at the combination of his rushing and receiving numbers, the last person to do it on the level that he did was Christian McCaffrey, right? And so, like, I just think that his skill set, and we kind of talked about it earlier, right? Some of those easy buttons with the younger quarterbacks coming in, RPOs and stuff like that. Does he become kind of a safety blanket for Jackson Dart with some of these checkdowns and stuff like that going forward? And if there's a threat of Dart being able to run, what we have seen with some of the running quarterbacks, does that allow him to be maybe a little bit more efficient on the ground, open up some running lanes that maybe wouldn't have been there with like a Russell Wilson or something like that? So yeah, there's a lot to like about him, from not only just like who he is, how he plays, first one in, last one out kind of thing, but also the role and opportunity that he potentially has going forward. Now, I do wonder, like, are we getting over our skis here because Tracy's going to be out 4 weeks? There is going to be a scenario where, like, he does come back and does maybe not necessarily take over that 1A role again, but he is going to be involved. So, like, what is his, I guess, for rest of season, like, how are you viewing him for rest of season? And then in that same lens, where do you guys have him from, like, a dynasty perspective?
I really think you can't be too high on Skattebo right now. You know, I go back to the college profile, where we saw this coming. He was 1.58 yards per route run for his career in college. And that's only behind Ashton Genty, ahead of Travion, ahead of Omarion, ahead of Judkins, ahead of everybody, ahead of RJ Harvey, ahead of DJ Giddens, ahead of Bashal Tutin, ahead of all of these guys, only behind Ashton Genty and Brashard Smith, who played wide receiver. You know, he was basically unbelievable at yards per out run, and was number 1 in the class in yards per reception for his career at 12.9. Those are Bijan numbers. Now, granted, some of that against lower level competition, but he was great. You talk about missed tackles forced. We watch it with our very own 2 eyes. He was 36, almost 37%, basically, 0.36 per attempt. He's breaking tackles all over the place, which was also second only to Ashton Genty in this class. He was just great, right? So we have a player who's proven to be a pass catcher. He's proven to be a tackle breaker. And what we watch on the film, now that he's in the NFL, is he's afraid of nobody. We talked about this going in, that he was going to think he's the best running back on this team, unironically. And when it's time, he's going to be first in line for every rep. Like, he's not going to be like, oh, I'm behind these guys. That's just not the way he's programmed. He's programmed to step up, step in front, and go nuts. And that's what he's been doing. And now you can't put that genie back in the bottle. You think that the fans are going to be okay with Skattebo getting 5 carries a game at this point? Like, no chance. They're not putting him back in the bottle. He's the RB1 on this team. He's going to catch passes. They could be a much better team now. They're going to be in competitive games. They're going to play Philadelphia twice. I mean, the schedule is rough. I don't know what to make of that. That's the one thing I'm not sure of. The rookie quarterback coming in with uncertainty. Let's face it, as much as I love Jackson Dart, I have no idea how that's going to go. There is a possibility, though, that they're kind of dope with Dart. And I don't mean like they're the best offensively. I just mean like they're good enough to be competitive. They're moving the football. They're fun. And, look, I think you can have him as high as you want. I don't think it's too high right now for Cam Skattebo. A receiving back who breaks tackles, who's an end zone weapon. What more do you want?
And I think what we want the Giants to do essentially is just make us super excited for 2026, right?
Yeah.
With Jackson Dart in there, with Cam Skattebo in there. Now, I think like Wiz that Tracy is going to be a bit of a factor.
Sure.
And the fact that those two both have kind of dual cannibalizing skill sets, like they can both be runners. Cam Skattebo is better in the run game. I'm not sure he's 100% a better after the catch pass catcher than Tyrone Tracy maybe, but they're both really good at pass catching. And so I think there's versatility there.
Obviously, he's pretty good at blocking too. I mean, we watched him just
Yeah.
ripping people's heads off left and right. I mean,
He
is
injured.
unafraid.
I think he took that D end out of the game because of the shoulder that he put in his chest, which was fucking awesome. So Jax right now was talking about how high he can rise. I have him as my dynasty running back 18, but he's behind a group of veterans to where I could make a case for him up at running back 14.
Yep,
So
I agree.
This
about
team,
right.
This team is real on Skattebo for sure. And my skepticism before, you know what? The reason why I don't have him higher is because I still do have that hesitance on whether he's going to be able to produce those big plays with any consistency like the other guys ahead of him.
Saquon Barkley doesn't have a 14-yard run so far this season.
Yeah,
the big
but
plays are not always everything, is all I'm saying.
I agree totally. I think ultimate ceiling, though, there should be a little bit of explosiveness there. And for all I know, Cam Skattebo could absolutely have it because we've seen like 80% of a game sample size of him being the bell cow back for them.
We saw David Montgomery run for 72. He got caught from behind. Obviously, he wasn't going to outrun everybody, but
it's just rare. Like it's really rare for Montgomery, right? And so we just want maybe.
But he's been a successful running back. I mean, my point is the big plays aren't everything. It's being able to break a tackle. It's being able to get to that second level and skedaddle for a little bit until someone catches you is faster.
And
There's going to be
skedaddle.
There's going to be faster players on the defense, obviously, than him. He's not the fastest guy out there, but the running backs are seldom that. They don't. There's just so much speed all over the field in the NFL now. It's not like you can just run away. It's like Devon Achane and a couple other guys can just fucking see ya. A couple dudes. Other than that, everybody gets caught from behind. What?
I just think maybe he more than others. I said totally.
I don't know. I mean, I look, I used to be a speed, whatever, ageist. What do you call it? Speedist? What the fuck does that? Speed scorist?
Speedist work. Yeah.
Speedist? Is that a word? We just made it a word. I was at the running back position. If you weren't fast, I used to make the joke. It's called a running back. If you're not good at running, you're not a running back. Half joke. It's a joke. But, I think I've gotten away from that because, these guys are, David Montgomery. I'd rather have Miles Sanders and David Montgomery coming out. That wasn't exactly right. David Montgomery is just a pro. David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, Cam Skattebo, very, very similar size and speed to those guys. I mean, he profiles very closely to those guys. He's not that far off them athletically. So, those guys are rock solid, dependable backs that they can run the offense through. I think that's exactly what Cam Skattebo will be. They're not worried about him tiring or getting hurt or whatever. Like, he just like, bring it. I'm fucking ready to more contact. I want more and more. So, and I think he can hold up to that because he's just a lunatic and I love it.
And if anything, like if you're putting him in the mold of like those guys that you're talking about with like a Montgomery or Jacobs and stuff like that, I think what we've seen is that his pass catching upside is much higher than those guys.
Yes.
And the pass catching upside is just, or even just, it just elevates the floor for these running backs right? Like having that element, not having to worry about them come off the field, and just gives you that
Exactly.
weekly floor. Like even if they don't have a great rushing game, they can get you 6-7 catches, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it.
I'm honestly, boys, I'm just glad that we're past Jax implying that I'm a racist for being skeptical about Cam Skattebo. So
I never said you were
I'm
racist. I
there
never
was
said that.
implications. There was implications made, Jax.
I said that the reason you don't like him is because of his lunch pail. That's what I said.
Implications, yeah.
I never. Don't put words in my mouth, pal. I just
I
think
didn't.
that you don't like the
That's
lunch
what an
pail at the running back
implication is,
position.
Jax. That's what an implication is. And one more happy note that we can finish this show on too, actually, is that the insertion of Jackson Dart into the starting lineup, Jax, might mean that we might get some Mrs. Dart on the television, as well
Maybe.
as the whole Dart family. So
Wow.
that's just a win for every viewer of those
Really is.
telecasts,
Really
really. Yeah.
is.
So hats off to the Dart family. Yeah.
Yep.
And that is it, boys. We have wrapped it up. Wiz, man, this has been so fun getting you back in the lab. Seeing you back behind a mic waxing was like old times. And can't thank you enough for the time. It is late out on that East Coast for you. So you are the man for that. And yeah, just can't thank you enough. Can't thank the listeners enough. Can't thank Jax Falcone, Joe Kuvatakis enough for being part of this, because it's been a fun ride for me, I will say. And it seems like it's been a fun ride for everyone who has been a part of it. So thank you to the listeners. Thank you to all of our supporters. For Jax Falcone, for one Daniel J. Whisner, aka Wiz. We'll see you next week, guys. Peace.